Can we call to order? Okay, great. Okay, so let's call to order. And let's see. So we'll call to order at 6:05. And Helen, you're taking care of minutes, is that right?
I am. Let me know if anyone else arrives in the room so I can add them.
Okay, sounds good. They don't count. It's all good. Well, we didn't really call to order. We had some rabble here. Okay, so let's see. Public comment period. Does anyone from the public like to comment on anything not on the agenda? Yeah, Jim.
Hi, guys. I want to commend Aiden for appearing at all your meetings. It's good to have someone from the town informed and keep everybody aware of what's going on.
Happy to be a part of it.
Okay. Yeah, thank you for coming. We appreciate it.
No problem.
Okay, thank you, Jim, for that. And then let's think of any additional items to the agenda. Do anyone want to add anything? Did you have a chance to add anything in email this week? Okay, great. And then we need to review and approve the minutes of October 10th and November 14th of 2024. Did anyone have a chance to look those over this month? And
they look good. So what a motion to approve.
Okay, all those
minutes.
Anyone want to second that?
I don't think I can. I wrote one of them.
Anyone want to second that? You know, we actually made a rule that we didn't have to second minutes if we didn't want to. We did say that.
Because I don't think if
Can
Helen,
you second?
I have no idea, honestly.
if she
Why
can't,
not?
I think we
Helen can.
specifically said that we didn't have to have a second for minutes. So we're gonna avoid the seconding today. We're just gonna say, well, who's in favor of approving the minutes? Awesome. Okay, I think that's probably a majority. So we're gonna approve the minutes.
So Carolyn, that means I will send you PDFs of both of those. So
Yep,
you
and
can
you
submit
send
them
those?
to the town?
Yeah, you can also send them to send them to me and send them to the clerk email, like send them to both at the same time. I emailed those in and have not heard back yet. But I made like one beautiful, well, this is for bookkeeping, but I did send those. So yes. So yes, please send those to me and the clerk.
Okay.
And then I'll forward them along appropriately. Okay, great. So correspondence. We have something through Vermont River Conservancy addressed to Kristen, but she's not here, and so we'll wait on that. So no correspondence yet. And then new business. Are we good for new business? Great. So annual report is due on December 31st of 2024. The way we've done this the last few years is the clerk has sent me a kind of bolded list of the highlights of the agenda, and then I've taken it and I've turned it into text that's sort of sentences and pretty, and then we submit that close to the 31st. But we've had a few different clerks and helpers and people have filled in this month, so I wasn't sure who wanted to do that or who could do that first pass, and then I'll do the second pass. Who wants to do that this year?
I'm happy to.
You want to do it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I gotta write it to myself.
Okay.
Like every year.
I know, right? Well, it's such a bad time. It's so busy.
Oh, I know.
I'm always sitting like at my parents' house with like a laptop and everyone stop talking. I gotta do this stupid report. Okay, great. So you'll get that to me and then I'll prettyify it.
Yeah.
Do you want to get that to me before Christmas? And
I'll
then
get it to you.
I'll
Fast as I remember it, which will be so soon. But it could be like tomorrow.
okay, great. That sounds great. I think one year we turned it on December 31st and we were the only person who turned it. We were freaking out that it was late. We were the only ones that did it.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. That sounds good. And then let's see. I thought we could talk about some tasks and events coming up in the next year. Oh, sorry. Does anyone have anything else about the annual report they would like to chime in with? And a big thing for that is tracking all the members, if there's new members and people that left and stuff too. Right?
Yeah.
What does that sound?
It's a scanner. I can show you.
Oh, thank you. Okay. Sorry, there's some scanner not background.
Bring it out.
I know, bring it out here and let's see.
Okay, great. So that sounds good. And then, if we can move on to the next thing, that would be annual tasks and events. So I want to have a chance to just brainstorm what do we want to do in 2025. And it's my good chance to do that. We don't have a plan for, like, no one's visiting this month. So I thought that'd be a good chance to think about goals we have, new things we want to do. And while we start the conversation, I'm going to find and then share on my screen that calendar we made of, like, things that happen every year. But I want to think, is there anything new someone wants to do? Like, we need to do a tree survey in 5 years or 10 years. I made that up, just not on the record. I have no idea about tree surveys, but that was an example of something one might come up with that they want to do. So I'm gonna look for that file while you start thinking about that.
You sounded like you were
No,
gonna
no,
say
no,
something.
no.
Okay. I don't. What, do we have like next steps in our wildlife survey that we could add to? Because we kind of talked about that a while ago.
We're waiting on the planning commission at this point. So I emailed them a bunch of documents and said, like, what do you want to do? But I haven't heard back yet. So
Okay.
we're just waiting on that. Okay, I'm gonna share my screen. Any new projects or thoughts? Let me see. Okay, great. Okay, so this is what we have from last year of things we want to do. So we said annually, every year, we start doing the very beginning of green up starts in January. That's when I usually take the lead on. And then, let's see, we're not gonna do student presentations. Would anyone like to do what do we want to do, No Mow May again? Anyone?
Kinda. I feel like somehow change it a little bit into more like pollinator too. And maybe that's just me as someone that already mows their grass in like April, so. I don't know. Anyone else have
I
thoughts on
think
it?
that might be right because it seems like I've caught a little bit of pushback. Not to say that should be a deterrent, but God, I think it was on Front Porch Forum, someone said, some of this stuff is just too impractical for people. But I think we just finished year 2 of No Mow May and promoting it. So I feel we should continue on and see, sometimes things take a little bit to kind of catch some steam. And really, in terms of, there's 2 parts of it. One, we're promoting it for the town wide. And second, we're trying to see what we can do with the parks that we oversee. And it seemed like the Sycamore was kind of the larger focus because it's lower than both Eagle and Memorial, which are up higher and really aren't involved, because by the time June is arriving, they're maybe just starting to kind of stuff is growing later up there. So, but I agree, broadening it to really kind of emphasize the pollinator side of it, because I'm not sure people understand really just seeing No Mow May. They don't really understand, well, what's the point, But the point is for pollinators primarily, and to kind of cut down on carbon, I think, with cutting lawns.
What, does this, has this been presented for the town green as an option?
Oh, yeah. Can someone just do a quick fill in? Well, I'm just changing dates here. Could someone just do like a quick like debrief on where we are with what's the deal with No Mow May so he can catch up?
Yeah.
'Cause I don't think he knows like the whole saga. There's a
Just give me-
2-year saga.
Give me the quick end of the saga.
Can we do a paragraph of
As
saga?
the parks manager, it's
Who
important.
was the one like in touch with parks last year about it?
I think I don't know.
Is that you? Was it
It's like
Heather?
usually
both.
it's Nancy, Jono, and Helen that
But,
spearhead
so
No
the
Mow
first
May.
year we did Eagle, right? and Sycamore, I think. Anyway, and they didn't mow, but last year, the problem is, and correct me anyone, like, the rec is paying the mowing company, but the mowing company will still charge us extra to mow in June because it's gonna take
A
two
little bit more.
mows to mow because it's gonna be longer and all of
Right,
that. So that was kind of the issue
Yeah.
with the town parks, is that they
Right.
were gonna get the company, the mowing company. was
Butler, yeah, or Scenic
was
Valley.
Not
It's
really
Scenic
on
Valley.
board. They were gonna charge more because it would take 2 passes because the grass was longer.
It's true,
So it's kind of like, well,
but
then,
you're missing a bunch of mowing dates.
right.
Because you're just, it's just work compression, it's not, doesn't change the amount of money being paid out.
Right.
And it would be, that's a decision, that's a select board proposal submission around letting the green get shaggy. And I imagine it can be a point of contention because it's the town green, right? It's worth a shot. And I think at the end of the day, it doesn't change the payout to Scenic Valley.
Okay.
It's just they're gonna do 2 passes in one day instead of 2, a pass on, this day of the month, and then 2 weeks later or 10 days later,
Yeah.
another pass, like.
I love that
Right, was that right?
optimism.
Like, they
I
would
think
charge
that they,
more?
because they said they had to get out there with like a different,
Or something.
they said it would be so hard to
Yeah.
mow after a month that it would be more expensive to do that one mowing. And so it was actually going to be more expensive than not mowing.
Yeah.
And so we've sort of run into this
It's
problem
kind of what.
with various, whoever happens to be mowing that year, they all seem to come back with that kind of thing. And it's been something we've pushed for with the rec department, and that's been, I don't know, it's been tough to sort of navigate that, I
Yeah.
think, between the different parties.
Well,
And so-
I'm happy to help, like, facilitate a new dialogue around it and and pick Meredith's brain and see what she thinks about it as
Yeah,
the rec director. But I can advocate as parks manager, and then, maybe it's an approach of talking to Scenic Valley and being like, hey, when your day one cut, like at the end of April, like just cut it super short and then just let it ride, right? And then it'll be less tough. And it's also weather dependent, like, we don't get any rain, it's not gonna
Mhm.
grow, and it's not really gonna flourish for the pollinators, and they won't be attracted to it as much. So, I mean, there's a lot of variable to it, but it's worth
So-
it's worth another approach, but.
Aiden, are you talking about, are you talking about the town green in particular, Aiden?
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't think not mowing in May will do anything for pollinators there. That is
okay.
100% bluegrass.
Oh, Kentucky bluegrass
It's
situation?
not gonna change what is growing, it'll just be taller grass.
Okay,
It only affects pollinators in a relatively diverse habitat where there's some early flowering, early spring ephemerals that might creep in on the edges of forests or the edges of pastures. So for instance, Sycamore Park.
right, 'cause it's more,
It might actually
diverse.
be worth doing a survey in late May when there is no mowing and see if there's anything there.
yeah,
How can we rationalize continuing this project? I have heard it mostly rationalized on a much grander scale as a way to protect spring nesting meadow birds, for whom going in and mowing is going to destroy their nests. Most of the places that we're talking about, there really aren't that many. There are very few early flowering plants in these areas in May that not
gotcha.
will make a difference. So
Mhm.
maybe the emphasis could be more on reducing carbon emissions, reducing, by not
I think
mowing for a month.
We've also debated this over a couple of years now as to the utility of it as an educational piece,
Mm,
right? With
right.
getting the signs out, having signs that say why we're doing it, what we're doing, and that there's a piece that's on one hand, we would like to mow all of Sycamore Park, and be like, this is for this is for pollination.
Right,
But we do have, I think there's another like prong of that, that's maybe we could not mow half of the green with a bunch of signs, just as an education, obviously, like, hey, get your signs, they're in Holly Hall if you want a free sign, don't mow, like, get the word out, and there's more of an
Right.
educational slant.
right.
So I don't know how we want to approach that. I think there are like, there's a utility there, even if it doesn't actually help the pollinators in that specific location. We've talked about that before, with some of the signs on the green.
Yeah.
Carolyn, I'm wondering if, it seems like this is an opportunity for a larger conversation, and maybe
Yep.
unless you see
January.
that the January's, a little light, maybe it fits in there, because it kind of is around Green Up Day time as well. I think there's some great ideas out there. I think Aiden, as a conduit, naturally to the rec park, and between Helen and I, we met with Meredith and we did a walkthrough. That was after the fact, I think, or was it before the fact? I can't remember. I think it was beforehand, but
It was before, well, it was between year 1 and 2.
yeah,
And this
but
would be.
anyway, yeah, so I think that would be good to table it now and move it to January, and then really flesh it out, because I think it's important, and I think we can probably get a good plan in place by then.
That sounds perfect. Thank you. Good idea to move that along. So we'll have a discussion about no mow May and think about, what can we do? Where can we do it? What's an option? What is performative, but for an educational outreach perspective, what would be useful for local pollination, for local birds, right? And think about different sites, site management, that kind of stuff. So we can bring all those things to the table. Maybe Meredith could come, or maybe you'll just represent.
Yeah, touch base with Meredith and she
Sure.
can give you the rec side of.
She can do,
Give me the backstory.
there's a lot of
She
emails
was the
and
mowing
meetings.
company,
Liaison.
Yeah.
There's 2
So
years of
she
it
can
with
give you all
Meredith.
that information.
I'm sure she'll be happy to be like, take it. You know, I never want to talk about this again.
She will.
I mean, I'm fine with reapproaching it as the parks manager, so
Perfect. That'll be great.
I'll give it a shot.
Okay, so Green Up Day begins and we can have that meeting in January. Here I see some other ideas for February. We're thinking about, maybe we'll move this just up to moves to January. And we can maybe start in February thinking about park plans. The apple tree pruning, we have that as hopefully for February. There was idea to do some like educational tracking training last time, because that's at the end of the snow and everything, but I don't know if anyone wants to grab the torch mantle on that one. We don't have to do that one. Let's see, we do like to educate, should we add like an educational outreach? Sometimes we do like these like events. Should we do one of those maybe?
Well, that's what I was
What's wrong with
wondering a little
that?
bit with the No Mow May, like if we wanted to also just promote like pollinator habitat and health, then we could talk to Pollinator Pathways about doing talks here
Yeah.
in Bristol. I mean, they do talks all the time in different places, but
Mhm.
we could
Yeah,
support one.
that sounds cool. Okay, that's for January then. So we have time to do that and
Mhm.
get that in place. So
Yeah.
we have Sycamore, we have check on the operating budget. Yeah. We'll do our best. We'll see where we're at with that. Let's see, March, we have town meeting, which then means we have to have the annual meeting. And then we remind ourselves that we need to do the tree pruning by now if we're gonna. April's meeting is the last chance to finish Green Up Day planning. Maybe that's usually we start planning about our cleanup days.
Mhm.
Big Eagle Park garden restoration. Is that happening? Where are we at with Eagle Park? I've lost the thread on that one.
I think we'll have to assess what the garden looks like. I didn't go there at the end of the year.
Okay. Okay,
Yeah.
so we'll get that.
It's a much smaller garden than it was before,
Okay.
which I think makes sense for the way the layout is currently, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, but it's shrunk, but it also like, I don't think that there's room for it to grow necessarily.
Okay.
And there's an opportunity to mitigate the knotweed situation there, it's on the shoreline, at least get the dead stock down. That's some handwork to be done, which I could figure out maybe with like a Boy Scout project or something.
Yeah, we used to
Um,
do on Green Up Day, there'd be like a contingent of people that sat at the table and the other group would do a Eagle Park work day that morning.
Okay,
That was sort of a tradition, and we sort of separated those out, and we said, well, let's share it and let's have the table, and then we'll also have everyone do like the week before or after. So we can sort of see in April, May, how we feel about that. We were thinking about maybe having a Seth Hill walkabout.
Yeah.
Maybe that can be the May meeting. Maybe we'll sort of see how that makes sense. So in May, we have Green Up Day. We have some kind of garden maintenance, other work days. We don't need to have this Middlebury College presentation anymore. Revisit the calendar. And then sounds good. Oh yeah, pollinator garden at Sycamore. Is that still happening? That should go here.
Yeah, it'll need some tending.
They'll just remind us to talk about it, right?
Yeah.
I always hate when it's like we realize it and it's like, oh shoot, we should have done that a month ago, or it's like, especially with the tree pruning, we forget, we sleep on that sometimes, right? Spend the operating budget by June 30th. Always good to remember that, whatever that number may be. The annual new budget starts. August, we usually plan a hiatus in August. September, there are gonna be apples, maybe. Yeah, oh, that's right. That was right now in fall. I guess it's no longer fall. We were supposed to talk about the operating budget with the select board. Well, good we looked at this. That's something to remember to do. Did I put operating? Sorry, can you see the computer now? Right, so the operating budget. So it got changed. We need to do that in budget season, which is like now. When do they have to pass the budget? Do you remember? In time for town meeting. So maybe in January.
March is town meeting.
Right, because they changed our operating budget, we believe on accident, and we need to get that changed back before the next town meeting. Because I got approved wrong, but it's mislabeled in two different places, right? So we have to make sure we get the correct amount of money.
I'm not sure, but I think that's right, that they try to complete the budget by January, so it's in place for town meeting and information to be voted
So
on.
that's around the timeline when we should check in on that. Jenna, you were you gonna check in on that?
Specifically on which, was it?
Well, the operating budget, we want to make sure that we have the full amount. I think it was like I have to look at the notes. It's like 250 now, but it was 300.
It was 300,
350.
yeah.
Yeah,
And it
wasn't
got
like
changed, or
somewhere
was it down to
said-
200
it, like
now?
said in two different places, two different numbers, and the amount we got was a different number than you got.
Yes, it was like all messed up. So we just
Yeah.
want to make sure we talk to like, to make sure our budget line is correct, because the town plan didn't have it right, but then what actually came through was a different number. Just to make sure someone looks at our number and make sure we have the right amount.
Yeah.
Because then we always try to spend the whole budget, but then they tell us like, oh, you didn't spend your budget, your number was this number. Like, no, we were told this number, and there's too many numbers, and they're all very small numbers, mind you. Like, no one cares enough in the town to sort it out, because they're like, it's such small potatoes, but it'd still be nice to have closure to know how much.
Well,
we're
just
supposed
to
to
be copacetic and clear.
Exactly.
Carolyn, I think it's helpful because we have a nice connection with Ian, that we get a chance to discuss a little bit of that with him, because he was in on a conversation, I think, way back. And then two, is there a current treasurer? Was there an interim treasurer and then that person left?
Yeah, there was a treasurer who helped me get all those budget codes organized, which is great, because now
Right.
we know the numbers of the accounts, which is really powerful. I think that'll help us going forward, but there is not, to my knowledge, a current treasurer. Is that right? Okay.
Yeah. So we keep having these gaps.
So-
It's sort of, we get some information and then
Which
we,
makes it that much harder then, because I don't want to bother people who are in good
Yeah.
faith helping out,
Yeah.
so. So we'll stay the course, and maybe in January, we can remind ourselves, we really need to like poke someone about what's our number and is it reflected correctly? If they
I
have
mean,
time.
it's not a very large role, but a lot of organizations do have a treasurer, This
No,
one,
John, you volunteered to do that as vice chair, though. Did you not remember that?
no, I am. What I'm saying is we've had these sort of false starts and stops. So
Yeah.
it kind of like, okay, are we get ready to jump in? So you're right. I did say that I think that's important and it's a small role, but um, I guess as we can get alerted when there's a new treasurer to pick up on your starting the conversation of the codes and where we were, because yeah, we had a lot of chances to kind of get that going, but
Right.
it
And
never
I think the
really.
most important thing that came out of the conversation was not only did I get all the account numbers, I was also able to get, I was able to connect with the treasurer and make sure that the 2000 and I believe it was 2003 money that was appropriated towards the Conservation Reserve Fund had not actually gone into the Conservation Reserve account. And that was something that I
Right.
followed up with. So that was good. That's, I mean, that's $10,000. So that's, that was important to make sure that got moved over at the right time. And so as far as I know, that did get moved over. I had confirmation, I think in an email that that did happen, but I was glad I had the meeting because we noticed that discrepancy that people had voted for that appropriation and then it never actually made it into the account. So, so that's good. So we should check in and make sure the 2024 amount did end up going in as well, right? And make sure that's all.
I mean, the minimal responsibilities would be one, to know that those things occur on a regular basis, that conservation money gets transferred over. Two, that we have the operating budget and expenditures kind of going forward. And three, any outside things like when we make small purchases that we want to get reimbursed through the town. Those are the three functions that I see the treasurer would kind of have a
Right. And there's also
site.
been a lot of discrepancies when we've gotten grants that's gone into, in most cases, the general fund of the town. And then they've still billed our operating budget, but never reimbursed it from the grant that we got, right? So there's been all sorts of mistakes made over time. And so I really tried to get to the bottom of it. And it's just hard because we're, you know, our operating budget is like $300 and now we get a grant for a couple hundred, or, you know, there's not enough to really make a big fuss. So the Conservation Reserve Fund, I was glad I caught that with the treasurer because that is a bigger deal. That's not something that our commission directly uses or has control over, but it was a good thing that we kind of look out for that fund. So I was glad to catch that. So let's maybe in January touch back in with a select board member and be like, can we have our money? Please, or at least pick a number. Pick one of these numbers, please, hopefully the higher one, but at least one of the numbers so we know what we're dealing with. That sounds great. Anything else we want to put in here? We did say we wanted maybe an out Seth Hill tour. Anything else we want to add between now and the summer? Anyone else have ideas of like, oh yeah, we should do or invite someone, or do we want to talk with John Swepson again? Do we want like the tree warden? Do we want to touch base with Meredith?
I touched base
know.
with John Swepson about a spring pruning in the park
Okay,
because there's some sections of trees that have dead
okay.
significantly, so they need to be.
Is there something, should we bring him back in? Do we want to talk about emerald ash borer or tree things? Anything else anyone wants to talk about with anyone? We'll think about it and we'll throw it on here, okay? Because I just want to make sure we have, you know, if we have ideas, we want to keep it going.
Yeah, that was what we talked about, that, and we talked about as soon as I'm copacetic with my chainsaw course, me and him are gonna do a site visit at Sycamore to size up the felled trees
That
that
sounds
are laying
awesome.
about, which are significant. It's
Yeah.
a lot, it's a bit of work.
Yeah,
It's a bit of work.
that's
So,
awesome.
because it's blocking the access path. So I talked to him about that and about deadheading in the park, so to speak. And so we're gonna touch base about that when the winter is transitioning into spring and figure out when that makes sense. At least to do one or the other.
Okay, do we want to talk to you about that, or is that something that you're just doing with rec?
That's
Is
just
there a
me
role
as
that we have?
as the parks
Okay.
manager, and something that needs to be done. And we were just ran into each other in front of Holly Hall.
Perfect.
We just looked at it from afar and we're like, yeah, he's like, oh, and that one over there, and I was like, yeah, we could do this and da-da-da. So we'll come up with
Okay.
we'll stage something and then put forth a dialogue to you guys in
Yeah.
regards of what we're gonna.
There's also that Johnson money from the A. Johnson bequeath that has interest that was hoped to be rolled over to buy new trees for the town every year. And that was about $100,000 sort of mini trust that we've sort of set up now. And so that should give us, I don't know if it yields maybe 3,000 or 4,000 a year. We can go towards planting new trees. And without the treasurer, I don't know if that's happening or not, but that's something we could talk to John about. Like, is that happening?
Yeah.
Is he interested in dealing with that?
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's just keep ideas coming as we think of them.
Cool.
And then we'll stop sharing this. Thank you for your input on those things. That helps us all.
Just-
That are useful.
Yes. There was two others. There was the river scoping project that's happening on my property, Ken Johnson's property, and either side of upriver and downriver. That's supposed to be starting. So, but that's not sort of a regular reoccurring annual. And then there was another one.
Is there a certain month that you would like to talk about that project though, or you think it'd be useful for us to be involved in that?
No, I think it's gonna come up and we'll I'll mention it, or Kristen is aware of it, and Kristen is also aware of the parks accessibility, which is kind of wrapping up, and they want to get input. So those are two that are will come up periodically on the agenda.
Okay, that sounds perfect. I just want to make sure there's anything, event wise. That sounds great. That's definitely things we'll be doing with this spring. Okay, great. Well, thank you for that. That was a helpful conversation. Should we move on? Are we good to move on? Or let's move on. Okay, great. Old business. Conservation Commission membership. We'd like to welcome our new member who was able to make it tonight, which is interesting because Noelle emailed me and asked and wasn't able to make it. So we'll see how that goes. Instead of even having the select board vote or do anything, they said that the way the paperwork was done, they just actually reinstated the current paperwork and didn't bother doing anything. And they threw her name up on the website already, like instantly. So yeah, she just called the town and they said, oh, sure. It's like you never left. Don't worry about it. So yeah, so that's exciting. Although I don't know where she is right now, which is a little deja vu because this is what happened last time when she joined, which is why it was so easy to reinstate her. So hopefully we'll hear from her. But that's all updated on the website, which is nice. Okay, great. So old business next would be Seth Hill. I had heard from people saying they want to debrief the presentation, talk about next steps, and even just think about like, what was that whole property we talked about and why did we talk about it? Because some people were unclear because we have had some new members. I want to make sure we're on the same page with that. So thoughts on Seth Hill? Comments, questions?
I thought his talk in general was fascinating, especially about the
Watershed.
watershedding.
Yeah.
It's super interesting to hear about his work up there. I'd love to go and tour and visit and see
Yeah.
what he's doing.
Yeah, I really want to do that in spring. That'll be good.
Yeah.
It seems like he really established it as like hydrology site
Yeah.
as its main kind of thing. It's, it's like a parky kind of property, but not really. It's more for like, because of its the location, like an ongoing hydrology experiment, which I think is great. Man, I'm looking forward to taking a tour up there and seeing how things are and taking pictures and then taking another tour later and just maybe making that a twice a year thing or once a year thing or
Yeah, I remember one time we were all trying to figure out, maybe 8 years ago, we were like, what properties do we even own? Like, what even falls under the umbrella of the BCC? We're just making a list of properties, we didn't even know. And Randy found the deed or something in this vault of like just paper. We're like, what even is this property, right? It's just gone through the cracks for years. So it's nice to know about it. Yeah.
So that was kind of like, do we do anything with it?
It's just sort of sitting there.
It just sits, we don't have to do anything with it.
As far as I
It
know,
seems-
with it is David.
Is what I was kind of understanding, right?
Mhm.
Like,
Mhm.
we just.
It's the
It
town's
seems to
property.
me that, it seems to me we have three categories of, of our involvement. One is the parks, naturally, and that's pretty in-depth. There's plans for those that Kristen has put together and have been submitted and approved by the select board. Number two are properties like the Saunders, where it's not really promoted for public access, because this is really what it comes down to, is public access and how we oversee things. And then thirdly, maybe this is a category where the Seth Hill is, I don't think many of us were aware of it, that it even existed. And it's kind of has this ancient role with providing water to the town, and it's actually in Lincoln. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's very unusual, but I think the public access to me is what really defines our role, because then we're needing to manage people going in and out. And if it's not public access, or defined that way, or if it is, but yet discouraged, like for instance, Memorial is closed currently right now for the winter and for other reasons. There's that aspect of what is our purview. So that's how I see it.
Well, unless, I mean, like, as the Conservation Commission, should we be paying attention to what he's doing with the watershedding and seeing if it works really well? And should we then be trying to promote it for landowners or for other properties that, just to like, try to prevent flood damage in the future in Bristol? Like, if, I don't know, like, what our role, cause like, we're not just public access, we're like the Conservation Commission,
Mhm.
right? So it's like, should we be paying attention to that in case there's a role we can play to help the land around us? I don't
I
know.
agree. Zaley. I guess I was just trying to create distinctions, not to say that we should abstain from being involved. It was more that we just have different categories of these properties, and a lot of it is defined by public access.
Yeah.
So I'm extraordinarily interested in this property. It's really and maybe it's just that we learn about it, understand about it. Maybe it even comes to pass that Kristen wants to write up, some sort of a management plan as we have for the other properties. It's not to say I'm disinterested. It's just that it's almost its own category, but it sort of falls into the third one that I described.
Right, and then just to help out, I also listed the purposes of the commission from our website, so you can see that, which has all sorts of things that would apply to the Seth Hill property.
Mm.
Yeah.
Make that bigger for you.
Yeah, I think maybe after we all tour it,
Mhm.
after the visit, we can kind of talk about it and see.
Get a
Once,
vibe.
once we kind
Yeah.
of visualize.
It's been chilling there
Yeah,
for
it's
like
right, yeah.
100, 200 years. 3 more months won't matter.
Right.
Well, yeah.
What's the end goal? Like, do we want to keep it how it is?
Mhm.
Or do we want public access? Like, I
Right.
guess is the question.
Well, I think if we
like,
think
what do we
long
want to do with
term,
it?
I think like
Well, I
long
mean,
term
technically,
too.
it does have public, I mean, like, it's public property, anybody
Right.
can go there, but it would change the.
Do we want
It
to
would be
develop
an-
it, I guess?
Right.
Right, with like a
Which
parking
I think-
lot and
I
a
think
kiosk.
meaning,
yeah.
like,
Or, yeah, like,
It's not
yeah,
like-
like
Right.
showcase it as a public
Mhm.
parks,
Mhm.
Right.
quote unquote.
Put
Yeah.
signage and
Right.
tell people that it
Right.
exists.
Right.
I guess it
Well,
depends on.
that's the point I was getting to about
Right.
the public access, because it's on a severe incline at much of it. It's definitely limited. It wouldn't fall under Porter's current grant, obviously that's passed, but as far as trying to make it wheelchair accessible, but yeah, no, I think those are all great questions. We should kind of bounce those around prior to a visit, and then hear from God, I forgot the gentleman's name, because I'm sure he would give
David
us the
Brown.
tour.
David Brand.
David, yeah.
I was thinking too, just now about this sort of, it's been around for a long time, right? I know Dave has done a lot of really good work there and has been the manager of that property for a long time. And I wonder if that's something that should fall under the Conservation Commission umbrella once he no longer wants to have that role anymore, right? Like what happens when he's uninterested in it? Because I don't know that, like, what was happening there before he
Right.
sort of took
Right.
notice of it?
Right, I don't necessarily think
Um,
it should change now, like,
Right.
they're
Right.
clearly doing a marvelous job.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
yeah.
Like, but yeah, what is the next?
What's the
plan?
long-term horizon on that, right?
I guess get an idea of the sensitivity around what he's been working with
It does,
Yeah.
up there, and
yeah,
then
it does seem like we need to know
boots,
more.
boots on the ground and like getting a vibe of the property and then being like, maybe you guys come to consensus of like, oh, the sensitivity around an educational space for scientific research is
Mhm.
what this is framed at, or, you know,
Yeah.
because it's in a steep incline and all those things, might be where it's at, and then that might parlay into a discussion about, okay, when David's not here, what does that look like?
Mhm. Right, I mean, and just protect all water and wetland resources right there is,
Mhm.
right, that's just right there already is a
Mhm.
water and wetland resource that we apparently own
Yeah.
and should be managing.
Sounds like, yeah.
It does feel like, as a commission in general, the wildlife survey has sort of started going into the protection of natural species. And then, but it also feels like there's definitely more in those areas, like Bristol's being developed
Definitely.
really intensely right now. Should we be focusing on figuring out how to, how to help protect our natural resources while that is happening, and what is our role there, and, that sort of thing. I don't know how to go about that, but,
Yeah.
but it does kind of feel like that should be something that is thought about a little bit more right now.
And we also have those goals from the town plan too.
Yeah,
Right, where they will specifically ask for different educational materials and things. Some of those
Yeah.
the students made,
right,
Yeah.
which we could look at.
yeah,
Maybe I'll add that to January as well.
yeah.
Would you
And
like
it does
that?
seem like, I mean, it says increase awareness of conservation and recreational goals in overall land use planning and zoning. It does feel like we need to be in contact pretty much all the time with planning and zoning.
Mhm.
Like, we don't have any idea what they're working on, so we don't have a conservational say in that at all, because we're just not in contact with them.
Mhm.
Have we had any contact with our wildlife survey and planning and zoning?
So Kevin came to the meeting and then it took a long time to get all the stuff from the students.
Mhm.
And then I finally took it all and I organized it. And then I was finally able to get that to him, in the last few weeks since our last meeting.
Okay.
So now it's like in their court,
Okay.
but not soon enough. Like it just happened. So
It
I don't,
just
it's not ready for me to poke him on it, but
Okay.
by the time we get to our next meeting, I will have been like, hey, can we do this? So,
Okay.
but it's not at that point yet. Not at
Okay.
all.
But it was just, they have
I said,
received some things.
I believe, I shared all of those projects. I organized the 4 major projects we did. There was the first student that got everything sort of set and thought about the stakeholders and did the background research, and she worked with Sophie.
Yeah.
I have Sophie's information as a separate folder. Then I have David's stuff, Goldsmith, who did he did a study with wildlife camera traps on Memorial versus Sycamore, kind of like up in the Green Mountains versus like that transition zone into the agriculture. Look at those. And then I have that huge project that
Yeah.
seminar did
Okay.
with all 5 of those students. And in there, some of those outreach materials that were like how to manage wildlife crossings on your property, something like that. They had like a
Mhm.
brochure they
Okay.
made. And once we know what we want, we can hire more students, which is cool. We just need to know what their project is, and then I can hire them. So if you have ideas, let me know. Okay, cool. So Seth Hill, anything else? People have questions about it or thoughts? I was hoping to get the management plan for this meeting, but that didn't happen. So hopefully we do that for the next meeting. Let's talk about that. Man, more next meeting stuff. This is great. I always am like, every time I go to do the agenda, I'm like, what are we gonna do this week? So this is great. Okay, great. Cool. Are we good with Seth Hill then? Moving on? Okay, great. Wildlife corridor project updates. I guess that was the update. Sort of got worked into that discussion. We're waiting on hearing back from Kevin Hansen, the planning commission, on that at this point. And I wish Alex was here. Was taking pictures with Sam and some other students, I think, this semester, but I don't know what they're doing. Do you know what they're
I think he
doing?
went out like once. I don't think he's been doing it
Okay,
more than that.
okay. I know I gave waiters to some kid, but I don't know what
Yeah.
they're doing. I don't know what they're doing out there. I just gave them plastic pants and it was like,
Kid
have
might be
fun.
still be out there, I don't know.
We didn't bring it back. He's just
I have
staying in
no
the
idea.
river.
As far as I know, he hasn't gone out with anyone in a long time.
Okay,
But
so yeah, I don't know what's happening there with anything new, but I know he wanted to once it was snowy.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know what that kid's up to. I don't know
Or
what.
any of
Hunting
those kids.
season got in the way.
Bailey,
Yeah,
wasn't
hunting
Bailey gonna
season.
go out too?
Yeah.
I think Bailey told me he was gonna do something.
I mean,
June
Bailey-
term.
Bailey was at my house recently, but he's eating pizza, so.
It's like town gown, we're all friends now, you
We went out
know?
hunting with Alex and Brave Little State.
No way.
Yeah.
That is.
Yeah, coming out on like
amazing.
December 19th or something, there's a Brave Little State that is
No way.
hunting with Alex and Bailey and Alex's cousin Emmett.
That's
And
amazing.
Alex he made them walk all day. Those poor people.
Okay, well, that's really exciting.
Uh-huh.
Okay, well, so for now, then that's not, let's talk about wildlife for now. Let's do parks updates. Who's got updates on parks? I have nothing to say about this. Anyone have anything to say about a park?
I sent you guys some photos of the signage that I put together and implemented at the parks. So Memorial Park now has a Town of Bristol notice that Memorial Park is closed. And that's easy to see from the road. And then Sycamore Park has a new sign that says no overnight camping or parking.
Do you feel like it's helping yet or too early to say?
Too early to say. The litter situation frequency has slowed down considerably on my last visit Friday. And then as you go up in elevation to the other parks, Memorial, where I put the sign up, and then there was no footprints up there because there was snow.
Yeah.
And then Eagle, there was snow, a little less snow, but yeah, everything, the railing system on the deck at Eagle Park has been put away by the road department.
Did you end up helping with that or?
No,
they-
Eric
Okay.
did, Eric in his
Good,
crew did
okay,
it,
because
so-
that was really contentious when they designed it. It was like. who's
Yeah,
gonna
it
do
was, yeah, it
so-
was the
okay.
thing I heard that was kind of like a pain, but the feedback from Eric Coda was that it was fine, that
Okay,
it was
That's
not a
fine.
big deal.
okay,
And then everything else looks pretty good. I took a tour through Sycamore Park. I always do a long walk there, cause you never know what you'll find. And it didn't look like there was any like foot traffic, like there wasn't much snow there, if any. But there wasn't like litter out into the green spaces, so.
And is Sycamore closed in winter or anything, or it's just?
It's just not accessible because
Just
there's
a plow?
there's no plow.
Okay,
But that'll all change once there's some redesign infrastructure implemented, regarding a parking lot and
sure.
dedicated handicap and all that stuff, so. But for now, it's enter at your own risk
Okay.
come winter time.
I think it's probably mostly seasonal in that, people are busier leading up to Thanksgiving and then the holidays and then, as Aiden's pointing out, if you get some deep snowpack, maybe it's just not as inviting if you're gonna walk your dog or do other things
Yeah.
in Sycamore. So I think it's just a natural drop off seasonally. Which is a nice thing to not have to worry about all of the litter and everything else.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Any other park updates of any kind? Good. Okay, great. Accessible design for town parks. Now, I saw in a thread today, I think, that Kristen was gonna talk to us about this. but now she's not here, so I wasn't sure if anyone else was in that meeting or had any feedback or knew what was happening.
Um,
Go
I
ahead.
have some images I could show, but I don't know if they were up to date or it was just attached to that email, but I'm not really part of that.
I'm referring to the Du Bois and King.
Yeah,
Yeah, so I was there for that meeting
okay,
with them. And I think we discussed a little bit of this in the previous meeting. They had a lot of things, in terms of like dock access or rigging access for, handicap folks to be able to, or special needs folks to be able to access the water. But, you know, there's a quite some strong, eddies there that would probably just wash a lot of stuff away. Plus, it would basically, the responsibility would fall on rec department to, you know, implement these things and then retract them and
absolutely.
store them, and it's a big thing. I think like my perspective as a person who goes to these parks every week, is like, for example, like Sycamore Park, if it just had a paved driveway that kind of like framed in that it's like a park and we pay attention to it and people enjoy it, like,
Yeah.
I think that's a good start.
Yeah, I
I
agree.
think the broader, like, well, you know, concept designs are a lot to take in. Until, I think it's more of a phase one,
Mm,
like fundamental infrastructure, like parking lot.
Yeah.
You know, and then we talk about like, what is the feasibility of like shore accessibility,
Mhm.
bigger stuff like that, walkways, illuminated, you know,
Right,
sections or whatever.
right.
That was just my like overall,
Mhm.
not that I don't wanna like help coordinate it dynamically, just a lot of that was kind of like tall order for two people who run a single department.
Definitely.
Um,
And where's the concerns
think-
that we had about the active segments of river? Was
yeah,
that-
I
Was that
mean,
brought
it's,
up? Did they talk
yeah,
about
we
that?
talked about like, just that it, like, things like, it would be ideal to have steps that would go down, but like, what does that really take to make it robust enough infrastructure wise
Mhm.
to stay if we do get major flooding? I mean, the frequency in which Sycamore Park is flooded is increased exponentially quickly, and we say we did put all, you know, half of the things that they proposed in the concept designs in, and then we just had like a catastrophic flood.
Yeah.
I mean, all that stuff would just get wrecked, and then
Mhm.
all that money just.
I think a really good point here, my observation is that Aiden has a certain perspective of what does it take to deal with the maintenance,
Yeah.
the rec parks involvement. Porter, who got the grant to begin with, you know, she liked to see that these parks are more accessible, and that makes sense. And then other members have various other perspectives, but less maybe direct involvement and investment in the outcome. But that I did get an email 1 or 2 days ago that basically says they're in the final stages now of wrapping up and kind of signing off on this. So I didn't look at that as closely as I should have, but I think it's coming to completion, so we should weigh in if we have some final comments.
Yeah, that's what the email said.
Yeah,
Um,
I got that same email, Jono, and I wasn't quite sure where it was going, other than they are nearing the end of their proposal writing. And then I
Right.
think the next step is they present this to whom, I don't know. Who, yeah, to the public, to.
Yeah,
select-
it'd be probably up for public debate. Like, the public would have to be able to establish things that they like or do not like about. But, I mean, what my understanding of the meeting, being in the meeting, was that these were concept designs, and then they would just like, well, Aiden, what do you think about this? And I'm like brand new to the game, right? So I'm just like, well, as a person who's there every week, like, this would be really great, but it's gonna cost X amount of money and it can flow down the river at any given minute. I mean, really, you know, just being, and, oh, what would you think about you guys putting the dock out and pulling it back in? I'd be like, again, great idea, but I didn't seem like, well, these are things we're trying to finalize to like give out for public opinion and discussion and then try and solidify a site plan, you know,
Mhm.
so.
Could we have them in January? Maybe come talk to us? The people come and give us like their final, are they going to give us like a final
Yeah.
thing
I
and?
just reread the email. It said that they were actually asking for our input on a bulleted outline and then said, we will be distributing a final proposal soon. So I think
Oh,
we
please
just
look
wait.
forward to a full draft report next
Right.
week.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm so sorry, what's our timeline and what do we need to do today or for next month? Or will next month be too late?
I don't think we do anything.
We don't have to, I wasn't sure.
Did you
There's
see
no,
that you?
no, I don't know what I'm looking at here. I have so many emails
When did that come through?
The 11th?
yesterday.
I
I got it. Okay, that's okay. I got it.
Yeah, so
got it,
I
got
don't,
it.
I guess it was like, are these
I can
'cause we
share it.
saw
Here, let me
the
share it. Let me
stuff.
share it.
at
You can keep
last
talking, Marcia.
meeting or whichever, when they showed us all the concept designs and we talked about that and we talked a lot about the paths and stuff.
Oopsies.
And then I guess we got this, so I don't, I guess that's where I'm like, do we have another meeting? Yeah, and then it gets, yeah, at the end, so maybe next week, so maybe January, we can talk about their full report.
I did not get this email and Meredith did not mention it, which is, yeah.
Can you read
Let's
out
see.
there? If
Yeah.
not, you can see it.
Huh.
Right,
Yeah,
am I, is.
Yeah, you're
am I
not-
Because it went to
understanding that?
Meredith.
Oh, yeah, it went to Meredith.
But
Yeah,
As
not-
Meredith, rec director, yeah,
right.
but not to you.
Yeah, well, like the actual meeting was forwarded to me because
Yeah.
it wasn't in Zach's, he wasn't gonna manage parks. That wasn't his thing.
That's not his thing, yeah.
But then when I came in, I was like, oh, well, I can totally manage parks. Like, that's not an issue, so that wasn't.
So, yeah, I guess,
Please look forward to a full draft next week and comment prior to the finalization of its contents.
yeah, cause it would be nice to see in terms of all these things, like
Mm,
visualize it, I guess.
Yeah,
Cause we kind of talked about our thoughts on, the path surfaces and different things. We had a bunch of questions on that, and so I don't know what they've
I think, like,
changed or
just
what
the-
they've talked about.
The maintenance and the flood
So-
risk, I think,
Right.
is our
Right.
biggest concern for all of this, right? Like, who's gonna do it?
So. I
When
don't
it,
know.
when it breaks, how often is it gonna break? Can we do something that would be more permanent?
right,
And that whole like Sycamore Park.
Yeah.
Any FEMA property where we can't put permanent structures, like how to
Right.
deal with that.
So I guess, yeah, maybe put it in January, talk about it when we get there.
I mean, a lot of the concept designs were, you know, transformative to like what you would.
Yeah.
What you're used to in terms of the park.
Yeah,
Great idea.
okay, I'm gonna put this as, I'm gonna say big convo for January. And we'll make sure, maybe we can invite them in, or maybe we could have, I don't know who talked to us, or we could just talk about it, or I don't know what we'll be at that point, but maybe that'll be something we
I
can
mean,
do.
I'm sure we can bring Du Bois and King
I guess cause then.
I just don't know if
project
they're,
lead into it.
I don't know what their timeline is, like, will it be too late by January, whatever?
So then,
9th?
yeah, like-
Will
I
they
think
just
we
not?
should
will they
talk
not-
about it as a group before we invite them in to ask them.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
That's
So
true.
what about January? We talk about the proposal that they will send in theory next week. So indeed, if we talk about it at our January meeting, that's only 3 weeks after they send the proposal.
Okay, so we'll have a big conversation with us. And then maybe February question mark, just so we can get brainstorming, we can invite like the
Yeah.
other people in.
Mm,
Okay,
Yeah. We can decide in January if we feel like we need to talk to them.
okay, that sounds good. Yeah, I don't know what their timeline is. They're like, this project is over at the new year. Like, I don't know what if they want our feedback or not. I really am not too involved with it. Does anyone know?
It says. I wish to confirm the following report components. Will be place and snow what might be missing.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what we're supposed to even do with that list exactly. Okay, well, we'll have a big conversation in January. Hopefully, people who have been going to meetings will know what to talk about.
And
we'll
I can
have
touch
that.
base with Meredith and be like,
Yeah.
this email came in,
Yeah.
did you get it? Or-
What's our timeline? What are we supposed to do with this?
Exactly.
Yeah,
I get some more information around it.
That sounds great. Okay, anything else we'd like to talk about with that for now? Questions or comments? Okay, and then the last item I have on here is bookkeeping for those minutes. So I went through, I found all the minutes that Helen sent me, I found all the minutes that they sent me. We're missing March. You had sent those to me and you didn't even know it. I found it deep in my email. So I had your minutes then from March. I put those all in one email and I sent them to the clerk and I copied Ian.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, 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 because he was gonna start taking over the town, and, I haven't heard back yet, but I'm sure I will, because,
So now you're current,
now, if
With
all those
Sharon?
get posted, well, they've been getting sent to the clerk email, but they haven't been getting, so the agendas go up, but the
Right.
minutes don't ever go up.
oh, yeah.
So we don't know why the minutes aren't going up. So this would be in compliance with open meeting laws. So I went through all the meetings. The last one that was posted was the January of 24 meeting, and it's December. Like there hasn't been any of them in 11 months now.
Right.
So we're gonna then, Helen said, you're gonna send me the ones for October, November, and then I'll have those as well. So I'll reply to that same email and be like, oh, here's the 2 new ones that we have. So it's all in one place. And say like, please post these so we're in compliance with open meeting laws. And that's what I plan.
Tell me why you CC'd Ian Albison on that.
Because Ian in the past has gone on and done almost all the editing on our BCC webpage. So I thought that maybe he could just go on and do that for us. But I don't know if he's allowed to do that, if he has permissions for that, the agendas and minutes. But in the past, he's helped, he's the one who maintains almost everything on our page, on the BCC page. So I copied him on it because I thought maybe he could help us out with that, but I don't know if he has permission for that or not.
I kind of think that October might have been me. I might have sent that to you. But I'm not sure. Maybe not.
Yeah, well, once it's finalized, then I can snag it from my email.
I mean, I sent you all the ones I have, so I guess if I sent it to you,
Yeah.
then.
And
Yeah,
then-
I have October.
And
I
then
sent you
rumor
October.
or maybe official has it that we're having the administrator or something. Is that official? Can we talk about that
Ian,
with Valerie? I don't know if
um,
that is that common knowledge.
I believe so, but I
That
can't.
she's leaving?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that
Va-
official?
Yeah, I
yeah, we're
read it
ha- yeah, yeah.
I read
Va-
it somewhere. You
somewhere-
guys didn't
Yeah,
tell me. I read it somewhere.
Valerie is her last day is the 20th.
Yeah, I read it somewhere.
Okay, so Valerie's
There'll be
leaving
a
on the
party,
20th.
there's gonna be a party for her, like.
Okay.
Yeah, oh, yeah, that part, yeah.
So Valerie's leaving soon.
Yeah.
And so I thought it'd be good to include Ian because he would have some continuity with our group and then
Right.
whatever transitions are happening in the office and stuff as well.
Sure.
Okay, cool. So anyhow, so we'll hope to get those up. I hate to be a year out of compliance, but we have,
Yeah.
in good faith, we've been emailing those minutes. They just don't seem to make it online, so you can only do so much.
But yeah, so
Um,
I sent you October, so all you need is
Awesome.
November.
awesome, which I must have from the last one. It must
Of
be,
Helen, yeah.
yeah, Helen was in it. Perfect. Because yeah, then it'll just be that same email. I'll reply all to that same email and they'll have those two attached and be like, this is a year of minutes. Like, please just dump them on there for us. Like, that's all we want. Just dump them. Just 5 minutes. I assume it's easy. I don't know. Maybe it's a pain in the butt. Anyhow, so that's what I have there. I don't have any events that are coming up. Our next meeting is planned for January 9th. Same thing where it's hybrid, online and in here. And then that's all I have for the meeting. Is everyone good with that?
Mhm.
They'd like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, all those in favor, oh, second,
Do I
give it a
have a
second.
second?
You know, I don't even know if we have a quorum because Giano left, so it's all just for fun. All those in favor of
He
adjourning
said
the
he had a
meeting?
I'll second.
Okay, would anyone like to be in favor of adjourning the meeting? Great.
Aye.
The meeting is adjourned, 7:08. Thank you so much for your help.
Bye.
We'll see
Bye,
you in the
everybody.
new year.
See you next year.
Okay, this one stops here.